In 2014, all eyes were on Hong Kong as tens of thousands occupied key areas in the central business district, demanding only what they have been promised for the past 17 years, the right to elect the leader. For 79 days, protesters demand the implementation of Article 45 of Hong Kong Basic Law, allowing the chief executive to be chosen by universal suffrage. But for 79 days, the government sat silent. Once the protests were cleared and arrests began trickling in, hope for democracy under the promise of one country, two systems seems to have been lost for good. Why has a civil society like Hong Kong cannot determine its own future? Again and again, Beijing cites the Basic Law in saying that Hong Kong is an unalienable part of People's Republic of China. However, this selective focus leaves many other articles ignored or reinterpreted in the central government's dealing with Hong Kong. For example, in 2015, 5 sellers of books banned on the mainland were abducted and forced to confess on state TV. Or in 2016, when newly elected lawmakers added traditional pro-democracy and independence protests to the oath of office, incurring the wrath of Beijing and resulting in their removal from office and a reinterpretation of Basic Law. In 2017, the legally binding treaty outlining China and the UK's joint responsibility for Hong Kong was described by Beijing as a historic document no longer holding any realistic meaning, showing just how little they care for Hong Kong's special status. And most recently, the first party to openly call for Hong Kong independence has been banned under a colonial-era anti-child law with valid evidence. But how did Hong Kong get into this situation? Since long before the arrival of any Europeans and far from their imperial capital, Hong Kong has always maintained the ability to self-rule. In 1838, as the trade conflict between the Qing Empire and the British escalated, the Europeans were expelled from China and ended up in the strategic Victoria Harbour. Locals with little love for Qing rule delivered essential food and water across the blockade, giving the British another reason to set up a permanent colony here. Since then, China has undergone revolution, occupation, and absolutism. Meanwhile, Hong Kong can point to its own values, language, and currency as evidence of a unique, self-reliant society. So why, as a British colony, were Hongkongers not given the option of independence or continued colonial status? Soon after the People's Republic of China replaced the Republic of China in the UN, they introduced a resolution, nominally to protect the rights of colonialized areas, but which conveniently removed Hong Kong and Macau from the very least. Today, we see it no longer possible to reach true democracy under Hong Kong Basic Law and the promise of one country, two systems. So why should Hong Kong struggle for these goals within this illegitimate framework? We believe in taking a different path. We believe the only sustainable future for a unique and vibrant Hong Kong is with independence from China. We are the Hong Kong National Front, and we fight for our freedom, our democracy, and our independence.